and that type of thing, then you'll be going quite a long way to keeping yourself safe and your customers safe. As a larger business, and by larger I really actually mean, you know, sort of 5 employees plus, or maybe even just a team of consultants, you know, you work with and things like that, then it probably is worth thinking about, you know, some form of certification. But as I said, even if you don't go ahead and get Cyber Essentials certified, just downloading the question list will make you think. You'll think, oh, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that. Oh, I am doing that, that's okay, I'm doing that, that's okay. Oh, I'm not doing that. And after you've been through the question list, you know, some of it you'll know you've got covered, some of it you won't. You can then make changes.
Darrin, am I understanding from you that every time you get asked for an update on your software, you should update it, because I seldom do?
Yes, absolutely. Providing you're sure that the update message is genuine. So some systems like macOS, providing you're using a current-ish version, they update automatically. Windows, a bit more intrusive, but the update messages usually come up in the bottom corner. It will usually say something like, there are updates to apply, do you want to update now, or do you want to defer it to this evening, or something like that. I think there are 2 reasons why sometimes people don't apply updates. First of all, if their computer's a bit slow or they're busy, they don't want to apply updates because they don't want the interruption, and they put it off. And then some updates do sort of sometimes change the look and feel of things. Buttons move, you know, icons move about, your favourite function has been hidden, and I think sometimes people don't update because they're afraid of change. They're used to the way that their computer works, and they don't want to apply an update because you know, that might change that. There are always times not to do an update. If you're coming to somewhere like this to do a presentation, don't apply the updates half an hour before you're due to walk out of the house, because you don't want to be saying, oh, here's my presentation, and Windows is going, please wait, applying updates, 10%, 20%, and so on. But generally, yes, you should apply them as regularly as possible.
There's one scenario with what Jan said is like, sometimes I'm not able to apply the updates because it says for the MacBook Air, it's saying you don't have enough space.
Right.
The iOS is saying can't download the latest
Can't download the latest
so
because you don't have enough space.
Yes.
You absolutely must find a way to correct that. So that might mean getting a little external disk to pull photos or files or for something like that. You can always copy the files back once you've done the update. But yeah, housekeeping is quite important because of that. Unfortunately, some machines, Macs are an example because they're not exactly the cheapest computer in the world. The entry-level versions, the sort of the $799, $899 versions, as opposed to the £1,300 versions, they have quite tight storage, quite a small internal storage. But you can have, for example, if you're a Mac user, move files and photos into iCloud, and then that will free up the space.
How safe is iCloud?
It's very safe. It's very safe.
Can they hack those photos?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to come on to. So it's very safe. It's very safe for a couple of reasons. Reason one is they will take, Apple that is, take very good care of the sort of the back end of the system. But it's also very safe these days because the front end where you log in will now challenge you to confirm who you are. And in the case of iCloud, if I was to try and sign into your iCloud account now, and even if you gave me the username and password, I'd get so far, but then it would say type in the 6-digit code number that's just been sent to your Apple phone. And your Apple phone would be coming up and saying, you're trying to log in at, you know, Central London, you know, is it you, allow or deny? So with iCloud, actually, it's very safe because of that two-factor authentication that I was talking about earlier. But not all systems have got two-factor authentication. And there are quite a few systems that have two-factor authentication, but it's optional and it's not turned on initially. You've got to go looking for it and turn that feature on. And especially with email, and especially with your primary email account, that's the one you use every day, two-factor authentication, I now would say, is absolutely obligatory. And there's a very simple reason for that. Apart from the fact you don't want your email account hacked, there are loads of other services that you use that have a very handy feature. I've forgotten my password, and they'll quite happily email you a link to allow you to change your password. But if a hacker has hacked your email account, they have the ability to go to virtually any one of those services and click, I've forgotten my password. The password reset will be sent to the email account that the hacker's got access to, and then that account is toast as well. And they will just work their way through it. So whatever your primary email address is that you use for everyday life, it is absolutely critical that that is protected by some form of two-factor authentication.
With regard to these hackers and this cybersecurity threat, I mean, most of them international. I mean, originally they were Nigeria, now they're actually in China.
And Russia, and so on.
Yes, and Russia, yes, sorry, I forgot, yes. But is there actually something that the governments, our governments, really do something about it? I mean, does CGSQ really do something about it? Really,
they do
to
make a lot
sure?
of noise.
Yes.
And some of the networks that these hackers use do get shut down. But unfortunately, they rarely get shut down before they've caused a lot of damage. So, for example, there was a hacking group called Revil, which actually was R-Evil, which was quite a play on words. And R-Evil was one of the largest sort of Russian state hacking groups. And to give you an idea of how big some of these hacking groups are, especially the ones that are nation-state sponsored, they are not, you know, people, as you see in the photos, they are not people wearing hoodies in dark basements. We are talking about office blocks with rows and rows of desktop computers. And they've even got a cafeteria and an HR department and that type of thing.
Yes.
That's a proper business, because there is just millions and millions of pounds, dollars, whatever the currency is to make.
What sort of person do they target?
Well, they used to really go after big business. But over the last few years, we've seen them go after healthcare providers. They've taken out quite a lot of I mentioned that clinic earlier, but they've taken out quite a lot of countries, providers. Sometimes deliberately, they've gone after them. Other times, sort of almost accidentally. So, for example, a few years ago, the NHS was hit by an attack, but it was sort of accidental. The hackers weren't after the NHS, they were after a different clinical provider, but it only takes one email to go astray that's got a dodgy link in it, and so on, it goes on. The reason why they often go after nations' healthcare providers is because those healthcare providers are government funded. They don't necessarily have enough money to treat patients, but the government will have to pay to try and clear up the mess. So that's one of the reasons they go after them. But what's more common these days is a lot of hackers will go after a small business person. And the reason they will go after a small business person is it's more likely the hack will be successful, because big companies spend a lot of money on cyber security and cyber defense. And then once they've got in, they will then use that as leverage to get to your customers. So they aren't interested in you as a small business person. They know that you couldn't pay a huge fine anyway, but they know, maybe as an independent consultant, for example, that you've got a big customer, and that big customer can pay quite a lot of money in ransomware. So they will try and get into your systems so that they can then leap to customer systems. I mean, as an example, as an IT support company, first and foremost, the technologies group is probably a prime target for some of these hackers, because we've got a lot of clients, and some of them are quite big, with hundreds, if not thousands of employees that we support and look after every day. And we've got quite a lot of infrastructure that connects all that together. So if a hacker could get into us, we'd be a prime target. And that's one of the reasons why, apart from just talking about cybersecurity, we are Cyber Essentials certified, because I know that we have taken all the steps possible to help lessen that risk. We've actually gone further than that, in fact. We actually pay for quite a lot of additional stuff to really sort of shore up our system and make sure that it's secure. But any business is a target, small as well. You could be a one-man, one-woman, independent consultant, but you might be working for a company doing a particular piece of work. They might have 200, 300, 400 employees. They are the real target. They're the ones that can pay the rents.
I've had a friend of mine had his bank apparently phone him and got him to download TeamViewer.
Oh, yeah.
You know TeamViewer?
Yes, I do, yeah.
So they got him to download TeamViewer onto his machine, and
But they took
accessed his account,
then they took
and
over his machine.
took about £9,000.
Yeah.
Bank paid back.
Yeah.
Lucky.
Yeah, no, exactly. And sometimes it's not even about immediate financial theft. I mean, they're opportunists. If there's money sat there, they'll take it. Of course they will. But actually, if you imagine them getting onto, you know, someone's computer with something like TeamViewer or something equivalent to that, you know, they will spend time looking around. And if they can't finish the job then, they'll install a nice bit of software so they can get back on the machine at a later stage to do a bit more of a forensic examination of what's on there.
What's that called? TeamViewer?
TeamViewer. It's remote support software. It's really designed so that people like me connect to your computer and help you out when you've got a technical problem. But it's also used by the cyber criminals. They'll literally con you into downloading it. They'll say there's a problem with your computer. They'll phone you up. They'll say, I'm from Microsoft. You've got a problem with your computer.
So cool.
We'll just help you out. We'll do it for free. All you've got to do is click on this link. You download TeamViewer. They then got remote control of your computer, and they can pretty much do anything they want. And that's where the sort of the human factor also comes in that I was talking about. Being aware about scams, not just sort of fake emails and things like that, but also phone calls, text messages, all of those sorts of things. And the thing is, there's always urgency in it. If they phone you up and say, oh, well, for Microsoft there's a problem with your computer, you might sort of say, oh, is there? They'll say, yes, it's really urgent, we've got to fix it now. You've got a virus. They'll try and ramp up the threat or the immediacy of what they've got to do. Whereas actually, if you probably just stopped for 10 minutes or an hour and thought, something odd about that. Where did Microsoft get my phone number from? You know, that type of thing. You then realise that you were about to be scammed. But unfortunately, people panic and they click or, you know, whatever it happens to be.
Particularly vulnerable people are scammed. Yes.
A lot of people are busy and thinking about something completely different, and
Sure.
they just
But
get
I mean, like the scam really, you mentioned earlier, really the scam about the Royal Mail, really pay £1.50 because we couldn't deliver, pay £1.50 to redeliver your things. And of course we all know it's free.
Yeah.
But it happened, I mean my partner did that, he was working in the government not far from here, and they said, oh yes, okay, they clicked the things. So it was £1.50 really taken, and I just said, change your code, change your bank account, change your card. Because you paid with that card, and we changed the card, and he called the bank immediately.
Yeah.
Because he called me and I said, by the way, I've got that message. And I said, no, that's a scam. And everybody can actually do, particularly when you're quite busy and so on. So it's just really quite strange. So it is quite actually strange, but it does happen. So people really can be very busy and press the link. And
I think sort of busyness and the thing with, for example, those delivery scams is they're often timed. I mean,
yes.
As I said, since the pandemic, cyber crime has gone up by 600%. And one of the reasons for such a major rise is the fact that they knew everyone was at home, they knew that people were having deliveries. That's why all these delivery scams are so prevalent at the moment. And you know, people just want their stuff. You know,
absolutely.
I mean, I would imagine that a lot of people that get those delivery messages have actually got deliveries due.
Yes.
They'll get their delivery regardless because it's a scam message.
During the pandemic, everybody received everything by Royal Mail or whatever.
Exactly.
Delivery.
And I can guarantee by mid-November there will be scams around Black Friday. I can guarantee by the beginning of December there will be scams around your Amazon order has been cancelled. you know, that one where you've ordered a present for your nephew or niece or friend or
I'm
partner.
still getting it. Every day I'm getting like similar like FedEx or DHL. You have an order, click on that link, you know,
Yeah.
to confirm I'm getting this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I see a lot of messages that I just know are scams.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you know they're scams, that's great.
Yes.
The thing is that some of them are getting quite clever. They will often they'll often include a link, or they'll contain some other instruction, even call a number. And the thing is that cyber criminals are actually now very capable of faking numbers and even the name of the company. Because of the way that your phone works, a lot of text messages will appear in line within what I call the chat thread. So for example, I bank with Barclays, and I've actually had scam messages from scammers, and they appear in the Barclays chat thread. So I might get a message from Barclays, you know, your deposit has been received. I might get a message from Barclays saying your account is £1.47 overdrawn, oops. But then I'll get a message saying there is a problem with this payment, click here. I'm thinking, well, one, I didn't make a payment, and then I look at the link, and I think, no, that's not right. But it actually appears in the thread, and the reason it appears in the thread is because your phone's a bit dumb. When it received the message said it was from Barclays. It's got no way of verifying it's from Barclays, but it will just stick it in the thread, and it will actually appear in the sequence of messages that you've received from Barclays Bank. Because there's nothing in the UK phone system to actually stop a hacker or cyber criminal from faking the number or name that the message is from.
Yeah, I think they're planning to actually do something about
They are hoping to, yeah, they are actually hoping to try and do that. They're initially going to try and protect phone calls, and it's basically their first thing that they're going to try and do is stop an overseas company from faking a UK number.
Right, yes.
So that's sort of stage one. But there's a lot of work to do, and it's going to take several years. And until it is completed, you know, people are still vulnerable to that scale.
I noticed that a lot of antiviral software now comes in suites.
Yes.
What do you consider to be the best that's out there?
The best that's out there? Well, there are a few that I'm probably not particularly keen on, and I'm not so sure whether I should sort of say those.
Why not? Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't I? Well, I don't necessarily. I mean, sometimes it's personal choice. I don't.
Yeah.
I think they're all pretty
Then
good.
we're kind of swamped with a few different offers.
Okay.
And
Well,
sometimes
I will
we
give you
need
some.
to decide.
I'll tell you my favourites in a moment, which will help. But I'll also tell you about the fact that you should definitely be paying for your security suite or your antivirus software. Okay. The free ones offer okay-ish protection, but it just isn't good enough, and they're not updated frequently enough. And the simple reason is that so that your antivirus or your security software is the best, it requires constant development. It requires research, and if you're getting it for free, then they're not putting the effort into that. Sometimes the free products also have a commercial sort of sibling. So some of the technology in the free product is being shared with the commercial offering. But I definitely would say if you're not paying for your security software, you've not got the best security software. So do consider actually having better security software. I'd also add one other thing as well. Several of you have mentioned that you're Mac users. People used to think Macs were pretty invulnerable to viruses and malware. That isn't correct. The reason they used to be fairly secure against viruses and malware is because no one was bothering to write viruses and malware for Macs because not enough people had Macs. But since sort of Apple's rebirth, shall we say, and the fact that it's become so popular, especially for personal machines and home machines, then it really is a target. And there is quite a lot of Mac malware and attacks going on there. So Mac users need commercial software as well. As far as favourites go, I think Bitdefender is a very good product.
Sorry, Bitdefender.
Bitdefender.
Yes.
And I think WebRoot is a very good product
Oh,
as well.
WebRoot.
WebRoot, yes. Bitdefender and WebRoot. Those are my sort of two favourites. There are several others that probably should get honourable mentions. Panda used to be very poor, but it's now quite good. AVG's paid-for product is probably very acceptable as well.
What about Norton and McAfee?
McAfee has had issues. Norton has had issues. Norton is produced by a company called Symantec. I can tell you now that everything that Symantec have got their hands on, they've bought up quite a lot of companies, everything that they've got their hands on, they've wrecked. So I'm very, not sort of particularly keen on their sort of products. But that is, again, partly personal view, but I can tell you, just within the industry, everyone knows that every product that Symantec have bought, they've trashed. So that's that side of it. A few years ago, a lot of people were recommending Kaspersky antivirus. I still think it is a very good, credible product, but the problem is that the company is based in Russia, and the the owner of Kaspersky is good friends with a certain horseback riding president of Russia, and therefore people do wonder whether their security is that good. Of course, you could look at it the other way and say, well, actually, they probably have quite a lot of inside intelligence since they're based in Russia, so it might keep me very safe. But then you have sort of some of the banks that used to give away Kaspersky free with your current account, things like that, actually saying, no, we're not providing it anymore. It's a Russian-based company. We really don't.
It's the risk, isn't it, from their point of view?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They're de-risking it. I mean, if you had Kaspersky on your machine and it was a paid product, you were keeping up to date, I wouldn't be sweating too much.
Bitdefender found that they do, when it's time for renewal, they come back with a significantly higher price than the original buy-in price, which
that is
reduced.
That is true of virtually all companies. You could possibly just buy the business version. Chances are you won't get that sort of.
So what I've done is I've registered again with a different email address, and that's given me.
That's perfectly. I've done that sort of thing for quite a lot of things. I cancelled my Adobe subscription and resubscribed in order to get the better deal. Unfortunately, these days, and this has nothing to do with cybersecurity, but there really is no customer loyalty anymore. There's no sort of bonus for being a loyal customer. They have plenty of offers to attract in new business, but then existing customers they'll just shaft. So.
All the telephone companies and the TV companies work on exactly the same principle.
Exactly. Yeah. No. And that's sort of no different.
The government are trying to do something about it, apparently, whether they're effective or not.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult. Certainly, insurance renewal is another example there. Just sort of talking businesses generally as opposed to cybersecurity. Yeah, insurance has always been. There's absolutely no advantage in loyalty. Until recently, it was exactly the same with the electricity and gas companies, but we all know what happened to them recently, so it's...
Wow, yes.
Yeah,
yes. I had my neighbours changed really some things, and he's at 87 first floor. I'm 87A, which is a different house. But the agent of who rented that house is actually really just asked really the electricity and the gas to change the thing, and I receive a bill saying really, oh, this is your last bill with us, thank you very much. I said, excuse me, I've never asked really for that. How did it happen? And yes, it's quite surprising that people can do that without actually really concerning with yourself.
Yeah, no.
I mean, there's no security. You basically said, I own that house. I want to swap the things, and please do that. And suddenly, I was suddenly made aware that I
one of the issues around that, broadband and telephone providers suffer with the same thing as well. Is that it doesn't really happen on mobiles, but fixed line and broadband. Is because the government and Ofcom and people like that wanted to make it really easy for people to switch. Because when you wanted to switch before, you had to phone up, spend 4 hours on the phone, then when you just thought that they were going to be able to cancel the deal
Yes.
for you, they put you through to the retentions department. The retentions department would phone you up and give you some sob story about why you shouldn't be leaving. And Ofcom, etc., didn't want that to happen. They wanted to make it easy for people to switch.
But it's not too easy.
But unfortunately, yes, there just aren't necessarily enough steps. I mean, certainly with things like fixed phone lines and things like that, you should get a letter through the post, not even an email. You should get a letter through the post saying, we're sorry you're leaving, blah,
Yes,
blah,
I
blah,
know.
blah, blah. And at least then if, someone has tried to perform a switch on you and you didn't authorise it, you've got time to stop it happening. The only saving grace is there is always between about a 10-day and a 28-day grace period for the switch, and then that usually will give you time to stop it if you've been caught by it.
I know. But it's still really stressful.
Yeah, I found Virgin broadband surprised me by matching the offer that I told them I had from another provider.
That doesn't surprise me actually. They'll very often, if you speak to them, sometimes they won't necessarily start at that position, but if you
They need to know that you're going.
They need to know that you're going. I'm phoning up to cancel. But then the other thing as well is that very often, providing you're happy to sign another 12-month contract, that's usually when they'll be more than happy to match the offer.
So
because
with
at
me-
that point you effectively become a new customer. They know they got you for another 12 months.
So with me, I rang them and said, what's the optimum date for me to leave?
Mm.
Because I want to make sure that I don't get caught out, because it would have gone up to £83 a month from 20, and I ended up doing a deal for 29.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. I mean, funny enough, I'm with Virgin Broadband at home, not for our business, but with Virgin Broadband at home. I think I was paying about £59, which was the old rate. So I thought I'm not paying that, so I phoned them up and did the I'm leaving. Well, we can't really reduce it that much. We could reduce it to sort of maybe 43. I said, okay, well, in that case, I said, I'd like to end my service on